Gunshots echo in a dark hallway. Rain, heavy, cold. A man collapses on the floor. Another man reloads slowly. Nobody screams, because everyone in that room already knows one thing. If John Wick is standing, the argument is already over. No shouting, no debate, no negotiation, just silence and certainty. And certainty. That is the terrifying part. Not his violence, his calm. The strange psychological truth hidden inside that calm is the same principle elite negotiators, psychologists, and strategists use to win arguments without yelling, forcing, or fighting. Because the real power in an argument is not attacking harder. It is controlling the mind of the person you are arguing with. Imagine this. New York, nightclub. Hundreds of people screaming, lights flashing. A young gangster laughs. He just killed a dog. Not just any dog, the last gift from John Wick's dead wife. The next day, the gangster's father hears what happened. A phone call, just one sentence. You hit John Wick's car. Then silence. No lecture, no threats, just silence. The father hangs up the phone and whispers something that perfectly explains human psychology. You don't understand who you just stole from. Fear spreads. Why? Because when people feel forced, they resist. This is one of the most powerful discoveries in social psychology. When someone tries too aggressively to persuade us, the brain pushes back automatically. Psychologists call this psychological reactance, a reaction where people adopt the opposite position when they feel their freedom is being restricted. The harder you push someone in an argument, the more their brain fights you. That is why shouting rarely wins arguments. It strengthens the other side. But the story doesn't begin with violence. It begins much earlier, long before the nightclub, long before the gunshots, long before the legend, before the world called him Baba Yaga, before the assassins whispered his name. There was just a man trying to escape his past. According to the mythology of the John Wick world, Wick once worked as the most feared assassin in the criminal underworld. He completed an impossible task for the crime boss, Viggo Tarasov, eliminating countless rivals in a single night, just to earn his freedom and marry the woman he loved. That was the deal. One night, impossible odds, freedom. He succeeded. Because his greatest weapon was never rage, it was discipline, silence, precision. That same psychological principle appears in the real world of persuasion. Instead of attacking people directly, elite persuaders often use a completely different strategy. They ask questions, not accusations, questions. This technique goes back over 2,000 years to the Greek philosopher Socrates. Instead of telling people they were wrong, he would ask questions that slowly forced them to examine their own beliefs. Today, psychologists still call it the Socratic method. The trick is simple. If you tell someone they are wrong, they defend themselves. If you ask questions, they start doubting themselves. And doubt changes minds. This is exactly why calm people dominate arguments. When you stay calm, you immediately shift emotional control. The other person expects attack. Instead, they get composure. Psychology research on persuasion consistently shows that emotional regulation keeps your thinking clear and forces the other side to meet your level of calm reasoning. It is the same presence that makes John Wick terrifying. Not chaos, control. Imagine arguing with someone who never raises their voice, never interrupts, just watches, listens, then asks one question. That silence becomes psychological pressure, and pressure breaks certainty. But there is another tactic hidden deeper, one that feels almost like a paradox. Sometimes the best way to win an argument is to give the other person freedom to disagree. This is where another persuasion concept appears: reverse psychology. Instead of pushing someone toward your conclusion, you present the opposite expectation. Human beings hate feeling controlled, so when they sense pressure, they move in the opposite direction. Psychologists describe this persuasion tactic as reverse psychology, where suggesting the opposite behavior can trigger the desired response. In other words, when you say, "You are free to disagree," you remove the fight. And without the fight, people start thinking. The irony is powerful. The less you try to win the argument, the more likely you are to win it. The more freedom the other person feels, the more open their mind becomes. Elite negotiators know this. Sales professionals know this. Psychologists know this. And the smartest debaters know one more secret. People rarely change their minds because of facts. They change their minds because of identity. Because humans judge new ideas by comparing them to their existing beliefs and values. A process explained in social judgment theory, which describes how people evaluate arguments based on their current attitudes. If your argument threatens their identity, they reject it. If it protects their identity, they consider it. That is why persuasion is not about defeating someone. It is about letting them feel like the conclusion was their idea. Now think again about John Wick. Why do enemies fear him before he even fires a shot? Because his reputation changes the psychology of the fight. The moment his name is spoken, the argument is already lost. Fear enters the mind. Doubt follows. And doubt weakens resistance. But even legends break. After his wife dies, Wick isolates himself. Grief replaces purpose. The house becomes silent, empty, until the night everything collapses again. A stolen car, a dead dog. Pain turns into fury, and the assassin returns. But even in his most violent moments, his power never comes from rage. It comes from focus, target, decision, one move at a time. And the same rule applies to arguments. Winning is rarely about overpowering someone. It is about guiding their thinking. Ask questions, stay calm, use facts, give freedom. Let them arrive at the conclusion themselves. Because the mind defends against force, but it welcomes discovery. And that is the strange truth about persuasion. Arguments are not battles. They are psychological environments. The person who controls the emotional climate controls the outcome. John Wick understood that in combat. Psychology understands it in conversation. And life proves it every day. The loudest person rarely wins. The calmest one does.